A massive drug and money laundering operation with ties to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel busted right here in Houston.
Full Mexican drug cartel has allegedly taken responsibility for the kidnapping of 4 Americans.
Today, we uncover the dossier on a covert raid that shook the national security apparatus, beginning with an ordinary house in South Houston that concealed a steel-reinforced cartel fortress containing 780 pounds of narcotics and millions of dollars in cash, a discovery that revealed not just a major trafficking operation, but evidence of a militarized underground expansion plan targeting 14 U.S. states, raising the question of what forced the FBI, DEA, and DHS to move before dawn, and what terrifying truths about the gang's financial and political network were exposed. Federal agents have officially seized $40 worth of narcotics linked to the Sinaloa-CJNG alliance in South Houston as part of an aggressive crackdown during the Trump era, with hotels and lodging facilities now formally placed under the scrutiny of the Pentagon and national security agencies, shifting the story far beyond the border wall and into a completely changed landscape as Trump ordered a decisive strategic strike aimed at eliminating the problem at its roots, during which agents recovered hundreds of pounds of drugs, dozens of heavy weapons, and uncovered a fully reinforced command bunker disguised beneath the facade of an ordinary residential home. Three suspects were arrested during the night, and federal officials described this as one of the most decisive blows ever dealt to Mexico's most violent gang network. However, investigators emphasized that this was far more than an ordinary drug arrest, as it exposed a covert expansion plan so vast that it could alter the entire security landscape. And although from the street, the 3-story house on Calhoun Road looked completely harmless and blended into the neighborhood like any other quiet family home in South Houston, the moment federal agents breached its outer walls, everything changed, and a terrifying truth was revealed. They discovered things no one expected, including 780 pounds of synthetic narcotics, 14 firearms of various types, 27 encrypted communication devices, and more than $2.3 million in cash hidden behind sophisticated false walls. This was a fully operational gang fortress responsible for transporting more than $42 million worth of illegal substances across 14 different states. And what shocked investigators was not only the enormous volume of contraband, but the construction techniques and technical scale of the house itself, with a front door weighing 410 pounds reinforced by 2 specialized thick steel plates, interior walls rebuilt with military-grade bracing to resist bullets, and forced entry and a system of 62 security cameras streaming data directly to a bunker-style basement, equipped with encrypted radios monitoring screens and routers transmitting live data back to Mexico. Every window in the house was fitted with an ultra-sensitive motion alarm system designed to detect any approach from the outside, and even the ventilation shafts were wired to register the slightest movement in the airflow. One agent on the scene summarized the situation in a chilling single sentence, saying this was not an ordinary stash house, but a genuine battlefield position. And as tactical teams pushed deeper inside, the truth became clearer than ever. The Sinaloa-CJNG alliance was not merely testing territory in Houston, but establishing entrenched footholds inside American neighborhoods with the precision and discipline of a shadow army. And the Houston fortress was only the center of a far larger system. For 4 months, federal analysts tracked an operational pattern stretching far beyond the Texas border, revealing an underground logistics network sustaining the cartel's routes across 10 U.S. states. What began as a single surveillance lead evolved into a full blueprint of interstate trafficking corridors run by the Sinaloa-CJNG alliance, pushing narcotics north and moving weapons south with the precision typical of professional military supply chains. And investigators discovered that the South Houston cell oversaw 10 different satellite staging points, each disguised as an ordinary rental home scattered across Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, which were anything but simple or temporary storage sites. They were micro-hubs designed to break down large shipments into smaller loads before sending them to distribution centers in Denver, Chicago, Kansas City, and St. Louis. And the intelligence picture grew darker as layers of secrecy were peeled back. Agents intercepted encrypted messages routed through offline devices and hidden servers with traffic bouncing to processing nodes in Culiacan and Jalisco. And financial tracing uncovered nearly $18 million quietly moving through shell companies in Mexico and small businesses in Texas that served as a cover for transport logistics and construction operations. This network was operating like a multinational corporation, except that every shipment it moved fueled the narcotics crisis, devastating American communities, and a senior DEA analyst bluntly stated that they were not hiding, but expanding. The Sinaloa-CJNG alliance was not just trafficking, but also building solid infrastructure with roads, drop points, payment channels, and stash houses, all systematically established, each component calibrated to extend influence across the southern and midwestern United States. And for the first time, federal agencies saw the full scope of this threat, a silent expansion spreading like roots beneath the country's soil. And with that clarity came the urgent question of how to dismantle a system so deeply entrenched before it erupted into open violence. If this feels like it was escalating rapidly, imagine the moment agents realized the cartel was preparing for a real battle. By 3:47 in the morning, the situation had shifted dramatically as surveillance drones detected cartel scouts moving to new positions, thermal signatures showing activity inside all 6 target houses, and 2 cartel vehicles with a black SUV outfitted with makeshift armor circling between locations like a mobile command relay. This was not a fugitive criminal group. It was a battalion readying for combat, and Federal Command immediately issued an update warning that the gang was armed with rifles and tactical gear, instructing teams to prepare for coordinated resistance. At 4 o'clock, 3 minutes in the morning, the first assault team approached target number 3, which from the outside looked like a rundown abandoned duplex. But the moment the formation closed in on the door, gunfire from the cartel erupted violently with controlled bursts from AR-15 style rifles fitted with illegal modifications aimed low to pin agents behind their shield line as muzzle flashes tore through the darkness. And one agent later said it felt like stepping into a storm made of steel. While inside the cartel, gunmen moved with extreme discipline. 2 men holding the staircase with short-barreled carbines behind pre-built sandbag barricades, as another group retreated toward the basement, carrying duffel bags stuffed with cache-encrypted tablets and suppressed handguns. A lookout in the kitchen streamed the gunfight live through a helmet-mounted camera broadcasting every angle to an operator in Mexico, but the United States did not enter this battle blindly. Law enforcement brought overwhelming modern force with the FBI SWAT team advancing with ballistic shields and 5.56 tactical rifles in coordinated rhythm with the DEA's armored breach team, while Homeland Security operatives provided overhead surveillance using night vision optics to track gunmen through smoke and debris. And on the outer perimeter, the ATF deployed an armored rescue vehicle to block escape routes as local units locked down the surrounding streets. The fighting grew even more intense as the agents breached the living room. The cartel gunmen shifted positions in pairs, one firing while the other reloaded desperately, trying to slow the assault. Thick dust mingled with the screaming alarm sirens. A strobe light mounted inside the house flashed relentlessly, making every shadow appear to move with a life of its own. The staircase became the toughest choke point, a narrow bottleneck where the gunmen emptied magazine after magazine in short, well-trained bursts. But once the federal teams synchronized their final push, everything changed. The FBI SWAT team punched straight up the stairs while DEA special agents flanked from the rear wall. Homeland Security cut power to the entire compound, killing the cameras and motion sensors. In under 90 seconds, the basement bunker was completely isolated, surrounded, overwhelmed, and blinded. The last 2 gunmen dropped their weapons and surrendered. All 8 suspects were taken alive and not a single agent was injured. One on-scene commander later said they had fought with everything they had, while we fought with everything this country could bring to bear. And as the sun rose over Houston, reports confirmed identical outcomes at 5 other targets. The cartel had shown its firepower, but America had shown absolute dominance. In the first half of the content, what about the construction techniques of the Houston fortress struck you as the most astonishing display of the cartel's sheer audacity? If this feels like it's escalating too fast, say so, and I'll slam on the brakes so we can jump straight back to the moment the agents realized the cartel was gearing up for all-out war. When the final shots fell silent, the real war had only just begun, not with guns, but with intelligence. As the agents swept room by room through the South Houston fortress, what they uncovered went far beyond drugs and firearms. It laid bare the political reach, financial muscle, and long-term ambitions of a cartel coalition that had burrowed deeper into America's infrastructure than anyone in Washington had ever publicly admitted. Down in the vault, agents breached 34 steel lock boxes, each one a separate artery of the organization's command structure. Ledgers documented nearly $120 million in annual revenue flowing straight through the Houston corridor. Hard drives held encrypted exchanges with mid-level coordinators in Culiacan, Zapopan, and Sonora. A tablet hidden behind a magnetically sealed false panel contained files tying the Houston network to individuals embedded in politics across 3 U.S. states. Not senators or governors, but the people who actually run the system, inspectors, clerks, planning officials, contract coordinators, exactly the leverage points the cartel strategists targeted to bend America's bureaucracy to their will. The most disturbing discovery wasn't the money, but the architecture. Federal analysts uncovered digital blueprints outlining a 2-year expansion plan, 8 fortified houses slated for construction, 5 scattered across Texas, and 3 ringing Memphis and Little Rock. Each site followed 3 distinct phases: acquisition, fortification, and activation, with schematics that look less like criminal stash houses and more like forward operating bases straight out of a military playbook. Even more alarming, a folder contained draft rezoning applications, proof the cartel had already begun infiltrating administrative channels to quietly secure building approvals. By 7:40 in the morning, the intelligence summary hit Washington, and the reaction was instantaneous. The Attorney General convened an emergency call with Justice Department leadership, describing the findings as a territorial expansion effort by a foreign terrorist organization on American soil. Within an hour, the Secretary of Homeland Security issued a public statement confirming what federal officials had privately suspected: the South Houston hub was not a local cell. It was one of 6 regional command nodes operating inside the United States. At the White House, senior advisors pushed for a unified response, warning that the takedown had exposed a reality the country had been reluctant to face. The cartel wasn't simply trafficking anymore, it was positioning itself territorially, logistically, influentially, and infrastructurally. By late morning, the governor of Texas held a joint press conference with federal officials. His words were brief and merciless. "We are not dealing with street criminals. We are dealing with a foreign network operating with military discipline and political intent. Texas will answer accordingly. Behind the scenes, members of Congress were already demanding deeper intelligence briefings. Some pushed for expanded anti-cartel designations, arguing the Sinaloa-CJNG alliance had crossed the threshold from criminal enterprise to semi-military threat. One senator put it bluntly, if foreign actors are building fortified command posts inside our neighborhoods, this is no longer a law enforcement issue, it is a national security issue. As the political shockwave spread, agents kept cataloging evidence. They uncovered attempts to influence zoning boards, property acquisitions structured to mask cartel ownership, and a chain of donations funneled through shell companies into small city political campaigns. It wasn't enough to indict elected officials yet, but it was more than enough to prove the cartel was probing every crack. By sundown, one truth stood undeniable. The Houston Fortress wasn't just a drug hub, it was a foothold, an anchor point for a foreign network testing exactly how deep it could drive into American soil. And the message from federal leadership was unmistakable: the cartel had a plan for America. Now America had a plan for them. By the time the South Houston command post fell, federal agencies were already moving on intelligence pulled from the seized tablets and lockboxes. What emerged was a rapid response blueprint designed not just to dismantle a single network, but to shatter the cartel's entire expansion cycle across the American South. And within hours, Washington had green-lit the most aggressive multi-state operation in recent memory. Data recovered from the Houston Vault pinpointed 2 more fortified houses inside Texas, one in Dallas County, one near San Antonio, along with 3 activated sites in Tennessee and Arkansas. Each location had been camouflaged behind shell homeowners, short-term leases, and cash-paid renovations. But one detail towered above the rest. All 5 locations were scheduled for Phase 2 within 90 days, meaning armories, command rooms, and reinforced walls were either already under construction or standing by. Federal leadership didn't wait. Inside the FBI's Crisis Coordination Center, analysts fused satellite sweeps financial tracking and intercepted encrypted chatter. DEA mapped express courier routes feeding the Memphis corridor. ATF assessed weapons movements tied to straw buyers in Oklahoma and Louisiana, and Homeland Security deployed mobile tactical teams to choke off the known border entry points, funneling cartel commanders northward. By late afternoon, Operation Iron Meridian, the official name for the counteroffensive, was fully underway. In Dallas County, tactical officers converged on a warehouse disguised as a construction supply distributor. Inside, they found shelves stacked with rifle parts, ballistic plates, encrypted radios, and more than 1,200 pounds of chemical precursors for pop-up drug labs. The building had been fitted with motion-triggered strobe lights and fire-safe walls specifically engineered to slow federal entry. Agents also seized 3 armored SUVs in the early stages of modification, confirming the cartel's plan to field mobile units like the ones deployed in Mexico. San Antonio told a different story. The target house there wasn't fortified yet, but its basement was packed with voter registries, property records, and city planning files. The cartel wasn't just preparing a bunker, it was preparing leverage. Analysts believe the documents reflected an effort to game out political obstacles, who could be influenced, who couldn't, and which local systems were most vulnerable to outside pressure. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, Homeland Security intercepted a cartel runner convoy hauling cash and encryption gear toward Nashville. The Attorney General repeated the same tone, saying, "We will not allow territorial expansion by foreign criminal groups, not in our cities, not in our states, not in our country." Across Texas and neighboring states, federal teams kept executing the remaining warrants with calculated, coordinated, relentless precision. Every raid tightened the noose. Every arrest severed another branch of the cartel system, and every takedown drove the alliance deeper into retreat. What began as one fortress in South Houston had exposed a network sprawling across the region. What followed was the United States making it unmistakably clear that it intended to tear that network apart. The biggest lesson viewers can take away is the fundamental shift in the nature of the threat. Cartels like the Sinaloa-CJNG alliance are no longer merely street-level drug traffickers. They have evolved into a sophisticated, organized, politically motivated underground infrastructure network operating as a semi-military entity on American soil. The Houston Fortress incident teaches us that the real danger lies in their ability to infiltrate civilian systems from urban planning to logistics in order to establish permanent footholds. Vigilance, therefore, has to be elevated to a national level, not just at the border, but inside our very neighborhoods and administrative systems. The resolute, perfectly synchronized response of federal agencies is the key to stopping this territorial ambition dead in its tracks. This wasn't just a bust, it was a wake-up call about how foreign networks are trying to sink roots right into the heart of America. The lightning-fast coordination of the FBI, DEA, and DHS proved that when faced with military-grade strategy, our forces are always ready to answer with overwhelming power. We watched CJNG, Sinaloa build fortresses, but we also watched America tear them down. Do you think the cartels targeting local planning officials is actually scarier than drug smuggling itself? Comment safe below if you believe federal agencies need broader authority to combat this national security threat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from the war on the cartels.